Welcome to Words of Power with Joey DeMaio. This podcast is brought to you by ValhallaStudiosNY.com, your destination for immersive recording, mixing, and mastering. For those of you who have not heard about immersive audio yet, no worries. In one of my next podcasts, I'll be speaking with Ronald Prent. He is not only one of the greatest recording and mixing engineers of all time, but also someone who has been on the forefront of immersive audio since its inception. So stay tuned, and in the meantime, please check out ValhallaStudiosNY.com. As this is only episode 2 of my podcast, let me briefly explain what I'm doing here. In Words of Power, I'm discussing a variety of topics, ranging from my experiences in the music business and projects I'm working on, or even more general themes. I'll be sharing some of life's lessons that have made me the person that I am today. And I will invite guests to speak about some of their experiences. Now, before we jump into the new episode, I want to thank all of you for the great feedback on episode 1. I never could have imagined so many people would have enjoyed it, but I'm very happy that they did. Thanks for all the kind words, the thumbs up, and for your suggestions for future topics. In today's episode, I pick up my conversation with our video editor, Kevin McAuliffe, who's working with us on our upcoming Blu-ray DVD, Hell on Earth 6. Kevin and I talk about the speeches I give during our shows, the reasons why MANOWAR'S doesn't sell tickets to fans on Balconies, our amazing touring crew, what true metal is for us, and how our guitarist E.V Martel made it from a MANOWAR'S cover band into the actual MANOWAR'S band. I think E.V.'s story is a perfect example of what I strongly believe in. Work hard, do the very best you can in everything, put out positive energy, and good things will happen to you. And even if it's not always what you want, it'll help you grow, and it's usually exactly what you need. If you're enjoying my podcast, please make sure to rate it and leave a positive review on your favorite podcasting platform. And don't forget to also subscribe so you get new episodes automatically delivered to you. Also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to get all the latest news. My username on all 3 platforms is @RealJoeyDeMaio. Now, without further ado, here we go with episode 2.
Let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite things, and this is something that I was sort of doing while I was going through the footage. And people are going to see that we have concerts from Sofia, we have them from Stuttgart, we have from Athens, and from Mexico City. And one thing that I always really like is your speeches. And one thing that I found very interesting about the speeches is not so much the speeches themselves, which are always really good. It's the fact that in Mexico, your speech is in Spanish. Do you sort of know what you're going to say before you get up there, or is it all very much just sort of off the top of your head?
It depends. It depends on the language. If it's English, it's usually the easier one. I just don't plan anything that I'm going to say because, I'm just going to say the first thing that comes off the top of my head. And usually, I'm kind of influenced by the place, the city, what the audience looks like, who's there. And yeah, so English is the easy one. Spanish is a little bit easier, although I don't consider my Spanish very good. It's okay. But, the Spanish spoken in Spain is a style. The Mexican Spanish is a style. The Spanish in Argentina is a style. So naturally, when I'm in these different countries, I certainly want to, plan out some of the things I'm going to say. And I always involve a local translator to make sure I'm going to say things that are correct and not say that that's going to, of course, offend anybody unless I want to offend people who are losers. But they're, of course, the enemies of true metal, and there are none of those at our concerts. But, yeah, it's difficult. And you go into places like Russia, which is not an easy language. I think it's right up there with Chinese in terms of difficulty. And I want to be able to pronounce everything. And of course, I'm not a native speaker. The idea was when we first started touring in all of these different countries, I noticed back then a lot of people didn't speak English. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice, because we are guests in these countries, to say a little something in their language, because many performers will say, hi, or how are you, or good night, in the native language. And it's just something that kind of grew and grew over time. And I realized, well, if somebody will tell me, and translate what I want to say, I'm able to rehearse it, and I'm able to memorize a fair bit of it. But sometimes you'll see me reading off of a paper. I don't want to forget anything. And it's just a way to say thank you for having us as guests in your country. And I know I'm not speaking this as good as any of you can, and I probably never will, but I just want people to know that we respect them and we're happy and proud to be in their country. And it's just a little way to say, we love being here, and little thank you in the most polite possible way. And people get a kick out of it.
We've been working on this disc for a while, and you kind of at one point made a joke about, I hope we're not bugging you with all the changes we want to make. And one thing I said to you was the fact that there are people that make changes for the sake of making changes so that they can say, I made that change. There's people that want to make changes to things because they're passionate about what it is. And that's one thing that I've noticed, whether it was working on this disc, whether it was when I was in Mexico, even something that was said to me when we were working, which was I had a shot in one of the segments that had the crowd and it had an empty balcony. And I didn't think anything of it when I put the shot in there. Now, most people would look at that shot and they'd say, oh, look, MANOWAR can't sell the balcony out. And I was told MANOWAR doesn't sell the balcony seats.
Yeah, well, it does not make us very popular. The last time we did a handful of shows in the States, I can promise you, nobody was happy hearing that we will not sell tickets in balconies because they sound like shit. It made quite a few people very, very unhappy in the business, shall we say. You're right, they're thinking about selling tickets, which, of course, we have to sell tickets. The money from tickets is what supports the show. With no tickets, no show. But with us, I feel that as long as we can sell enough tickets to be able to do the show, and for the promoter to make a fair profit, and to me, fair is fair. It's not too much, it's not too little. It's what is fair. And for the band to be able to pay for the tour itself is a success. I mean, we have to eat too. But I think there's a difference between doing something to be able to do it fairly and do it well, make sure everybody eats and everybody's happy, and then to be, shall we say, greedy to the point that it causes a negative result. And don't get me wrong, if I could make $1 million fairly, or $2 million, or $100 million fairly, I would be the happiest person in the world. But if I have to compromise what I know the band should sound like, look like, be presented like, if I was going to do that, I would have been a millionaire at 18 or 16, or, I would have been much bigger than the band is now in terms of financial success or commercial success. I can tell you that. But the amount of work and situations that we've turned down because we will not allow ourselves to be compromised or used is staggering. Most people wouldn't believe it. So when you decide you're going to go into someone's place, let's say a theater, and bring extra people, pay them to bring in acoustic materials, and I'm talking about heavyweight acoustic curtain and stands to set the stuff up, they're not too happy because they'd like to sell those seats. Now, everybody had to agree when they heard the sound of their own venue, which was vastly improved. They couldn't deny the quality of the sound, but they were able to deny the price of what it costs to do it, because one of the guys said, hey, will you sell me that rig? And I thought to myself, well, that's a compliment. And I said to myself, well, yeah, I guess I'll sell him this, do him a favor, and then I'll just buy more. So I said, sure. And when I gave him the price, he said, well, you trying to fuck me? I said, you want to see the receipt? I'm giving it to you for exactly what I paid for it. What do you think? The stuff is cheap? I said, you're the one that told me it made the place sound better than you ever heard it in your life. And he goes, yeah, for that money, forget it. So that little story tells you exactly the mindset of many of the people in this business. If it costs any extra money, fuck that. Does it sound better? Yeah, sure. But if it's going to cost any extra money, fuck that. And that attitude is something that you unfortunately have to deal with, no matter how big you are, because the bigger you get, the bigger money you're generating, and the more money people want to retain. And for us, it's the more money we want to spend. To us, more money means bigger PA systems and more of it, lights and so forth. But not everybody thinks that way.
It's kind of interesting, that you talk about, the people that work with the band and, the commitment. I mean, I think, to be honest, most of the people have been with the band quite a while, I think.
Very many people have been with us for very, very many years. Unfortunately, a couple of them passed away, or they'd still be here with us today. When I first started playing clubs and venues, touring around the States, or starting in New York State, of course, and then going out further, it was very clear from the very, very beginning to me that it's a team, and it's just like a soccer team or a football team. One person does not win the game. And these teams that travel have teams of people with them so they can play. And I'm not just talking about the cheerleaders. I'm talking about all of the people that are there, doctors and so forth, and the people that handle the equipment and make sure everything is right with the equipment and the logistics. And it's no different in a band. If we didn't have what I think is the greatest touring team in the world, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do with the quality assurance that we have. We are just blessed to have such an amazing crew. And I remember when I first started out, I used to hear that the Deep Purple crew were the happiest crew in the world. They used to say that the Deep Purple crew had roadies for their roadies. They used to call them roadies in those days. We don't use that term anymore. The term is technicians because, in those days, anybody could just grab a cabinet and throw it on stage. But today it's a much more technical and much more involved business than it ever was. So they're called technicians, and they are technicians, and that's what we have, technical people that can deliver our performance with military precision, exacting standards that we've created for ourselves that go far, far beyond the standards of what other people could even imagine.
One thing I like about working with you is you're very non-bullshit kind of person, which is, if you say to me, how long is it going to take to do something, or how long is it going to take to do something, and I say it's going to take 3 hours, and if in 3 hours it's not done, your answer to me is, well, is it our fault or is it their fault? Because if it's our fault, we have a problem. If it's their fault, they've got a problem. I was interviewed by a German magazine talking about the tour and the disc and everything, and that's one thing that I said that that I really respected about you, which is the fact that the only thing that you expect is what's expected, and everything's always laid out, like very clear. We all know what the goal is. So if something's happened that's on our end, obviously we got to figure out what the problem is. And, I'm the type of person that I always accept accountability if something happens that is directly my fault. It's one thing that I like is that the bar's set, everybody knows what the bar is, and we all want to make sure that we're at the bar and above the bar so that there's no stumbling blocks on our side of the table, because unfortunately, you can't always control what happens on the other side of the table. So I want to talk about sort of the newest member of the band, and that's E.V. Because for me, E.V sort of has probably one of the greatest success stories that you could hear about, where he was the guitarist in a MANOWAR cover band. And he is now on stage as the MANOWAR guitarist. So tell me a little bit about how you sort of found him and how you think that he's kind of come to mesh with the rest of the band.
First of all, I wouldn't want to wish it on my worst enemy. I mean, honestly, it would be more merciful to kill somebody than to join another band. It's probably the hardest thing anybody could ever do. And most people don't realize that. But I wouldn't want it. And I'm so happy that I'm in MANOWAR. I wouldn't want to come from the outside and join this band, nor would I want to join any band. Whether it was still like Judas Priest or any band out there, Scorpions or anything, because you're stepping into somebody else's history. And you will always be the guy that is known for, but the guy before you, or even the guy before you. And I don't know if people actually realize, but I can't imagine anything worse, because you're always going to be compared with the guy before you. And like I said, the guy before you in some instances. It's very hard to join an established band. If it was a band that everybody's just getting started, maybe you played a few shows, but to join a very well-established band, particularly a band like Manowar, I wouldn't want it. So I really give the guy a lot of credit. When he came in and played, I think, I don't know if he's ever told the story, but I think when he has the chance to, he will tell you that it was very much like the movie Whiplash, because although he had played the Manowar music and played the Manowar songs, but playing it with us is certainly very much different, because there are all these little nuances and all these things that we're used to doing that we do second nature, but unless somebody points them out to you, you're playing the song incorrectly. And there was a lot, shall we say, that was pointed out to him, and he put up with so much brutality over a couple of days that you had to have instant respect for him. And it was really funny, because he told Manuel, because his English wasn't that great at the time, and he told Manuel, please tell Joey not to feel bad about yelling and screaming at me in front of everybody, because I want to do the very, very best I can, and I don't take offense. I really want to learn everything. And when I heard that, I said, well, I have to say, good for him, because that's the spirit that you need. If somebody's offering you constructive criticism, and believe me, everything I did and said was constructive, and it was from the heart. It may have been at about 140 dB, but it was from the heart, in his and our best interest, and you have to admire that. The fact that he played in a Manowar tribute band, I think, has been helpful, because he knew the songs, right? And of course, he was living for the music, and truly living for the music. I mean, the first thing in his life was, of course, the band that he was playing with, the Kings of Steel in Brazil. They're such nice guys, and they actually were with us on tour in Brazil. But I didn't spend any time with him, or I had no real contact with, him. I know the leader of the band, of course. He's a very close friend of Manuel's. But the rest of the guys, I only knew just a very little bit, and all fantastic, really, really great people, but didn't really ever spend any time with him. It just made so much sense that when he joined the band, it was the kind of thing that gave us the opportunity to be able to say to the world, well, if he can do it, you guys can do it too. You can certainly achieve your dream. And to be honest, this is not an egotistical statement, but it was his dream to play Manowar music and to play Manowar music for people. And he did achieve his dream. He did do that. I mean, with their band, they were a popular band, and he was really playing Manowar's music, and he was happy. I don't believe he ever had a thought to ever play in Manowar. He idolized the Manowar guitar players and the Manowar guitar sound and the music. So it was already in his blood to do it, and doing it every day. And something like this was just, for him, just so unexpected. And, when he first came into play, I mean, he was as white as a ghost.
One thing that I hear you say, and I hear Eric say, which is about true heavy metal, because I've heard it, when you give your awesome speeches at each one of the concerts, when Eric gets out and I say teaches in quotes, when he teaches the audience how to scream, he's talking about true heavy metal. What for you defines true heavy metal?
I think what defines a true person, what defines truth. You could go off on every tangent possible, but I think that being a musician, being a metal musician, performing, playing, you have to make a decision. Are you interested in doing this because you want to be a rock star, or are you interested in this and performing because you want to be a musician and because you are a musician? And I think that's where you have to look at the line of, is somebody sincerely into their music? Do they constantly strive to improve and do better with their music? Do they strive to perform better and provide the audience with more and more satisfaction in their listening experience and in their experience in the concert itself, the atmosphere? And I think a lot of people just have the feeling that, hey, I'm just going to grab a guitar, write a few songs, and I'm going to be a huge star. And it's this very casual attitude, and the audience, they're just a bunch of nitwits, and they don't really know whether I can play or I can sing, and it won't matter because I'll shoot off some fire or this or that. And I'm not knocking the use of fire and so forth. I think an enhancement to a concert, if that's what you want to do sometimes, and we do it ourselves, it's fun and it's cool, but it's only a supplement. It shouldn't be the be-all, end-all. And I think that's the difference in the line between somebody who is truly invested, mind, body, heart, and soul, in every other aspect of your being, as to somebody who's just there having fun. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having fun. I like to have fun, but I have to qualify the difference between somebody who's a musician and somebody who is just a performer. And I don't like to be categorized with people who feel that the fans are just a bunch of stupid idiots to be used and abused and thrown away like toilet paper. I've never felt that way. And I have a love for the people that support us in our music and our belief in what we do in our music and say that the music has affected them and helped them. And it's something that's sacred to me. And I don't take it lightly when people want to act like it's just a trivial component of the universe.
You've just been listening to Words of Power with Joey DeMaio, brought to you by ValhallaStudiosNY.com. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please leave a rating and a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And don't forget to subscribe to receive new episodes automatically. And follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for constant updates. Username @RealJoeyDeMaio. Have a great day and live a powerful life.